you." The room erupted in cheers. Mark kissed my cheek softly. "Your sister really cares about you," he whispered. I felt a twinge of guilt for ever doubting Lila's intentions. 2 nights later, sleep deserted me. Wedding nerves, I thought. Our big day was less than a day away. My gown, a vintage-inspired A-line with hand-stitched pearls passed down from my grandmother, lay carefully on the bed. I had confirmed the final head count with the caterer, 147 guests, and double-checked that the rings rested securely with Mark's best man. I'd instructed the photographer to capture a special shot of my parents' wedding rings alongside ours. My phone alarms reminded me to hydrate and eat throughout the early morning. By 5 a.m., I gave up on sleep and decided to surprise Mark with coffee, our last morning together as an unmarried couple. I picked up his favorite dark roast from a local 24-hour diner and grabbed freshly baked bagels. My key turned in the lock like it always had, opening the same door I'd helped him install above Mrs. Chen's flower shop. The scene that greeted me froze my heart. Mark's bed held Lila, my fiancé, and the white silk lingerie I'd purchased for our honeymoon, $300 worth of delicate lace, tangled around her legs. The engagement ring Mark had saved for months gleamed on the nightstand beside empty champagne flutes and a takeout box from Giovanni's, where we'd celebrated our 6-month anniversary. Lila noticed me first. Not shame, not surprise, triumph. She'd been waiting for this exact moment. "I was going to tell you," she said slowly, barely attempting modesty. Mark's face drained of color. He scrambled for his clothes, stammering apologies. "Sophie, it just happened. I didn't mean..." His words tumbled out, red-faced and panicked, sweat on his forehead. But Lila's laughter cut through him like ice. The same cruel, victorious laugh she had used years ago when she blamed me for breaking Mom's antique vase at age 12. Her laughter echoed through the apartment, sharp and victorious, the sound of someone who had meticulously won. "Stop pretending you're sorry, Mark," Lila hissed. "We've been planning this for months. Tell her about the hotel in Las Vegas during your culinary conference. Tell her about Christmas when you murmured my name in your sleep. Tell her about last week when you admitted you wished you'd met me first." My knees threatened to give way. The Vegas trip had been in March, 7 months ago. Christmas had been at my parents' house, where Lila had stayed in the guest room beside mine. Last week, Mark had been distant, claiming stress from the cafe. "Tell her about the loan," Lila continued, her voice rising, confident and relentless. "Tell her how you plan to use her savings to start our restaurant instead." My chest tightened at the mention of the $23,000, the money I had scraped together during 60-hour weeks as a nursing assistant, skipping meals and picking up extra holiday shifts. That was supposed to fund our dream cafe, Sophie's place, not line their pockets. Mark opened his mouth to protest, but Lila kept her momentum. "Tell her about the apartment we toured last week, the one with the sprawling kitchen and garden view. Tell her how we plan to leave immediately after the wedding, take her money, and start fresh in Portland." I remembered Mark had mentioned Portland only recently, saying a fellow chef had offered him a position there. I had encouraged the idea, thinking it could be a fresh start for us. Meanwhile, while I had been ordering flowers, arranging cake tastings, sending save the dates, and finalizing seating charts, they had been orchestrating my ruin. The late nights Mark claimed were spent at the cafe. Returning home smelling of perfume he said belonged to a waitress. The canceled sisterly outings Lila had invented, always for dates she couldn't explain. Their insistence on handling photographers and videographers themselves to save money, masking every hidden agenda. "We picked Chelsea Morrison," Lila had boasted once. "She's perfect for candid shots, she'll capture every moment." Suddenly, it all made sense. Without a word, I walked away. They called my name, desperate. Mark's voice cracked as he pleaded. Lila's sharp commands cut through him, insisting he let me go. "Please, Sophie," Mark shouted from the apartment window as I slid into my car. "Let me explain." I drove slowly, keeping my eyes on the rearview mirror. He stood there, half-dressed, likely realizing the life he had built, and was about to lose, was crumbling. For the next 6 hours, I sat at Sunset Bay, the same spot Mark had proposed 13 months ago. He had planned a sunset picnic with my favorite Thai dishes, a playlist of songs that mattered to us, and then he had knelt, hands trembling, offering the ring that promised a future together. "I can't imagine life without you," he had said. I should have been sobbing, calling my parents, canceling vendors. Instead, a cold, meticulous resolve settled in my chest. Lila had taken from me my childhood, my trust, and now my fiancé. But this time, it would be different. All my life, I had let Lila take pieces of me, my clothes, my friends, my boyfriends, and every time I'd convinced myself that's what sisters did. But this wasn't some stolen jacket or a ruined crush. This time she had aimed at my future, my savings, my stability. She had aimed to break me completely. By late morning, I forced myself to drive home. When I walked into the kitchen, I found my parents in full crisis mode, voices tight with panic as they tried to undo a wedding that was supposed to happen in less than 24 hours. My mom was crying into the phone, arguing with someone about losing the floral deposit. My dad's face was pale as he battled with the caterer over their non-refundable policy. The entire room smelled like stress. "Sophie," Mom gasped when she finally saw me, mascara smudged beneath her eyes. "Mark called. He said there was a misunderstanding. He thinks you're both just overwhelmed. Big commitments cause panic, sweetie. Maybe if you two just talk." Of course. Even now, they were bending over backward to defend him. Lila was their darling. Mark was basically their son. And I was simply the daughter expected to swallow betrayal with grace. "There's no misunderstanding," I said, placing my purse on the counter calmly. "And the wedding is still happening tomorrow, just not the version anyone thinks." Both of my parents froze. "Soph," Dad began carefully. "Maybe you're not thinking clearly. This is a traumatic situation. Let's sit down and—" "I am thinking clearly," I said as I poured water into a glass, my hand steady as steel. "For the first time in months. And I meant what I said. The wedding is happening." I didn't give them time to argue. I walked down the hallway, shut myself inside my childhood bedroom, and locked the door. Then I pulled out my phone. The first person I called was my cousin Trevor. 3 years older, brilliant with cybersecurity, and the only family member who had never fallen for Lila's lies. When we were younger, he was the only one who dared accuse her when money went missing, or when she broke something and blamed me. He picked up on the second ring. "What's up, Soph?" "I'm cashing in that promise," I said quietly. "Remember when I helped you get through your divorce?" His ex-wife had tried to drain his accounts, hide assets, and even fight him for his childhood dog. I'd spent months helping him track everything, organize evidence, and document her cheating. When the judge finalized it, he kept everything, including the dog she wanted purely out of spite. "Anything you need," he said immediately. I told him everything. The affair, the stolen savings, the plan to vanish after the wedding, the months of lies. Trevor didn't interrupt, but every few seconds I heard him mutter curses under his breath. "Absolutely vile," he finally said. "What do you want me to do?" Trevor had set up security systems for celebrity weddings, installed discreet cameras for corporate clients, and helped more than one friend gather evidence against cheating partners. Revenge wasn't new to him. He just preferred to do it quietly, cleanly, and legally. "I need everything," I said. "Every detail about how long this has been happening, what they're hiding, who else is involved, and I need it collected in a way no one can deny." "Send me Mark's address and number," he said instantly. "I can have micro cameras inside that apartment in under 2 hours. If we can get access to his phone, even for 30 seconds, I can clone it. Do you want basic surveillance or full deep dive?" "Go as far as technology allows," I said, my voice quiet but unshakable. "Then buckle up," Trevor replied. "By tonight, you'll know everything." "I need this done properly," I told Trevor. "Legally, everything has to be admissible if it comes to that. Leave the rest to me." "Understood," he replied. "Your target's building doesn't have cameras, right? And the lease probably allows routine maintenance access. I can pose as a cable technician. There's been a neighborhood-wide internet outage all week, so it won't look suspicious." Next, I called Avery Hart, the wedding photographer Lila had personally recommended. Avery specialized in capturing raw, candid emotions, exactly the type of photographer Lila had enlisted to document my humiliation. Her portfolio was filled with brides' glowing testimonials praising her eye for authenticity. "Avery, this is Sophie Richardson," I said. "You're photographing my wedding tomorrow?" "Oh my gosh, Sophie, I'm thrilled. Lila told me so much about you. Are you nervous?" "Interesting," Lila had briefed her. "I do need to go over some changes," I continued. "I have a very specific shot list for tomorrow. I need you to be willing to capture unconventional moments." "Of course," Avery said, intrigued. "I pride myself on noticing the small details most photographers miss. What exactly do you need?" "Everything," I said firmly. "Every interaction, every gesture, even if it seems awkward, uncomfortable, or inappropriate, especially the awkward or inappropriate ones. Can you do that?" There was a pause. Then she replied, "I've heard you like real storytelling. I'm in. Should I bring extra memory cards?" So Lila had meticulously arranged for her friend to document my breakdown in advance. Perfectly calculated. "Bring everything you have," I said. "And Avery, there may be video components. Are you comfortable streaming in real time?" "Absolutely," she said. "I work with social media integration regularly. Instagram, Facebook, I've got it covered." "One more thing," I added. "Keep this conversation strictly between us. If word leaks, the surprises won't work." "Your secret is safe," she assured me. Lila always underestimated my creativity anyway. After hanging up, I stared at my phone. Months of planning. Lila had crafted this humiliation down to the last frame, imagining viral moments of me sobbing at the altar, content that could follow me forever. Then came the hardest call. I dialed Mrs. Patterson, Mark's mother. "Hello," she answered on the second ring. "It's Sophie," I said, my voice steady but firm. "I have something critical to tell you about tomorrow's wedding." Patricia Patterson had never liked Lila. She called her a scheming little diva after Lila had flirted shamelessly with her married brother during our engagement party. Hair flips, inappropriate touches, all while his wife was in the bathroom. "Is everything all right, dear?" she asked, instantly sensing my tone. I laid it all bare. The affair, The theft, the months of deception. The plan to ruin the wedding, steal my savings, and vanish with my future dreams. The Portland apartment, the restaurant they intended to open with my money. Silence stretched long enough for me to worry she had hung up. But I knew better. The truth had landed, and it would change everything. The line went dead, but I could still hear the sharp, ragged breaths on the other end, Mrs. Hawthorne, Mark's mother, gripping the phone as if she could strangle her own frustration. "Those manipulative women!" she hissed finally, her voice trembling with a mix of anger and disbelief. "After everything you've done for that boy, after holding him together when his own father tore him apart." Mark's father had always been harsh during family dinners, constantly comparing him to his older brother, a Wall Street success story. I had spent countless nights rebuilding Mark's confidence, consoling him when his father's words cut deep. "Mrs. Hawthorne," I said steadily, "I have a plan, but I need your help." She paused, curiosity and suppressed fury in her voice. "What do you need, darling?" "That boy has been on a collision course his entire life," she muttered. "And Lila, she's the kind of woman who will drag him straight into chaos." Mrs. Hawthorne had been waiting decades for a chance to teach someone like Lila a lesson. Growing up in a strict southern town, she understood the satisfaction of a carefully orchestrated reckoning. I outlined my strategy. She listened intently, occasionally letting out approving murmurs. "Are you sure this is legal?" she asked when I finished. "Yes," I assured her. "Trevor is handling all the technical work. Everything will be properly documented. I'm not breaking the law, I'm just letting the truth reveal itself at my wedding." "Good," she said with a grim smile. "Mark needs to understand that choices have consequences. And Lila, she needs to learn that not everyone bends over for her schemes." "One last thing," I added. "I need you to make sure Mark shows up. If he bails or cancels, this plan falls apart." "He'll be there," Mrs. Hawthorne said firmly. "That boy owes you and everyone who cares about him an explanation. He will face the music." The morning of my wedding, I woke at 6 a.m. for the first time in months, feeling unusually serene. My phone was buzzing constantly. Bridesmaids checking schedules, vendors confirming arrangements, relatives asking for directions. At 6:15, a text from Lila appeared. "Mark told me everything. I'm so sorry, Sophie. Can we talk before the ceremony? I need to explain." I stared at the message, fully aware she was still trying to manipulate me, likely hoping I would quietly cancel the wedding and allow her and Mark to escape with my future. I replied, "Of course. See you at the church. We'll have plenty of time to talk." Little did she know, Trevor had already spent the night ensuring every detail of her planned humiliation was accounted for. At 3 a.m., he had sent me a text. "Package delivered, all cameras in place. You'll love the bonus footage." Bonus footage meant he had discovered more than I had expected. Lila and Mark had probably been careless, assuming their deception would go unnoticed. By 8 a.m., my hair and makeup team arrived. I had kept the original appointments, carefully framing it as minor schedule adjustments, but everything was proceeding exactly as I wanted. "Wow, Sophie, you seem so calm," said Jenna, my makeup artist, blending foundation over my cheekbones. "Most brides are in tears or yelling by now." "I'm exactly where I need to be," I said, and I meant it. By 10 a.m., I arrived at St. Cecilia's Church, in my gown, vintage-inspired and adorned with delicate lace, hand-sewn by my grandmother decades ago. Guests were already arriving, over 200 people who had taken time off work and rearranged schedules to witness the ceremony. Everything was ready, the stage was set, and Lila had no idea what was coming. Guests had flown in from across the country, some from as far as California, to witness what they thought was my perfect wedding. I could see Mark's college friends in the courtyard, adjusting bow ties nervously, while my nursing school friends admired the hand-picked floral arrangements I had spent months selecting. Lila waited in the bridal suite, wearing the sapphire bridesmaid gown I had purchased for $400. For the first time, she looked unsettled, twirling strands of hair, checking her reflection repeatedly. When I entered, she jumped as if caught red-handed. "Sophie, I need to explain," she stammered. "No explanation needed," I said, smoothing her hair with gentle hands. "You want Mark? You can have him." Her face lit up with a mix of relief and triumph, the same expression she had worn when she manipulated our parents into giving her my bedroom when I left for college. "Really? You're not mad?" she whispered. "How could I be?" I replied calmly. "You're my sister. If you truly believe Mark is your soulmate, who am I to stand in the way of love?" For a moment, Lila's eyes shone with victory. In her mind, she had achieved her goal without consequence. She still saw me as the passive sister who always rolled over. "You're so mature about this," she said, giving me a careful hug to avoid ruining her perfectly styled hair and makeup. "I was worried you'd cause a scene." "Me, cause a scene?" I laughed softly. "Never," she admitted. "You've always been so reasonable. That's why Mark and I knew you'd understand eventually." I smiled faintly, tilting her chin as I helped touch up her lipstick. "There's just one tiny change to the ceremony," I said casually. "Since you two are so in love, I thought you should walk down the aisle today." Lila froze. "Wait, what do you mean?" "I've arranged for you to marry Mark instead. Right now, in front of everyone." Her face drained of color. "Sophie, we can't just—" "Why not?" I interrupted. You love him. He loves you. The guests are here, the flowers are set, the cake is ready, and the photographer is prepared to capture every moment of your special day. Her mind raced. This wasn't her plan. She had intended to steal my fiancé slowly, making herself look innocent, the tragic heroine of a romance story, not the schemer caught red-handed. But what will you tell everyone? She whispered, voice trembling. The truth, I said simply, that my sister and my fiancé found their soulmate in each other, that I'm stepping aside for true love. Everyone should witness the start of your life together. Lila realized she was trapped. Refusing would expose her as the manipulative homewrecker she had been. Accepting meant marrying Mark immediately, before she could even reconsider, and backing out later would force an explanation to over 200 guests. Where's Mark? She asked, barely audible. Getting ready in the men's suite, I said. He's eager to marry you. The lie hung heavy. Mark had spent the morning frantically texting me, pleading to talk, promising it was all a misunderstanding. 17 calls between 6 and 8 a.m. had flooded my phone before I finally blocked him. I had forwarded all messages to Trevor for safekeeping. Everything would be documented, everything would be undeniable. Lila had no idea. I had forwarded Mark's frantic messages to Lila with a simple note. Your groom seems anxious. Maybe you should comfort him. 20 minutes later, Lila appeared at the back of St. Cecilia's church, wearing a hastily borrowed gown from our cousin Vanessa, altered just enough to pass for a bridesmaid's dress. The congregation murmured in confusion as Pastor Thompson approached the pulpit. Due to unexpected circumstances, Pastor Thompson began, reading from the carefully prepared script I had given him. We are celebrating the union of Mark Bennett and Lila Richardson today, instead of Sophie Richardson and Mark Bennett. The murmurs swelled into whispers. I sat in the front row beside my parents, who looked flustered and bewildered. My father leaned toward me, whispering urgent questions I answered with calm smiles and vague remarks about love taking its own path. Lila's smile was brittle as she walked down the aisle toward Mark, who stood at the altar looking pale and tense, glancing toward me repeatedly, probably hoping I would intervene. The organist struck the first chords of Here Comes the Bride, setting the tone for the strangest wedding ceremony anyone had ever witnessed. Chelsea, the photographer I had recruited, clicked away energetically, perfectly capturing Lila's forced grin and Mark's discomfort. When Pastor Thompson asked if anyone objected, all 200 pairs of eyes in the room turned toward me. I maintained my serene expression, subtly nodding to signal that the ceremony should proceed. Mark Bennett, Pastor Thompson said, consulting his notes. Do you take Lila Richardson to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, for as long as you both shall live? Mark glanced at me one last time, pleading silently. I stayed composed. He had no choice. His mother, Evelyn, glared from the second row, and the crowd waited. Lila gripped Mark's hands, knuckles white, forcing herself to stay poised. I do, he muttered, his voice tight. And Lila, Pastor Thompson continued, do you take Mark to be your lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, for as long as you both shall live? Lila hesitated briefly, likely realizing her grandiose plan might not unfold perfectly. Then she lifted her chin, straightened her back, and delivered the performance of a lifetime. I do, she said, her voice firm. You may kiss the bride, Pastor Thompson announced. The kiss was awkward, a brief peck rather than the passionate moment Lila had envisioned. Chelsea captured it all, the forced smiles, the tension, and the whispered confusion of the guests. During the cocktail hour, I played the part of the gracious sister flawlessly, weaving through the crowd and explaining that sometimes love takes unexpected paths. I praised Lila and Mark's union, framing the situation as a heartwarming twist of fate. You're handling this incredibly well, said Mrs. Hargrove, an elderly neighbor who had watched Mark grow up. I can see now that Lila and Mark belong together, I said calmly, maintaining a serene smile. Sometimes it takes a dramatic moment to reveal the truth. Mark's college friends appeared bewildered but polite. Lila's sorority sisters nodded approvingly, interpreting the scene as a romantic plot twist worthy of television. Older relatives whispered amongst themselves, clearly debating the unconventional turn of events. Shocked but unwilling to make a scene, Lila and Mark sat at the head table, growing increasingly tense as reality sank in. They were now married in front of everyone they knew, without a prenup. Mark kept glancing at his phone, probably searching for a non-existent escape. Lila's polished smile faltered slightly, and I could see the panic creeping into her eyes. Dinner unfolded exactly as I had planned for what had been my wedding. Seared salmon with dill and lemon butter, roasted asparagus, wild rice pilaf, and the 3-tier vanilla berry cake I had meticulously designed with the baker. Even the floral arrangements were the same. White roses and lavender sprigs reminiscent of my grandmother's garden. Everything was perfect for Lila's special day. Then I stood, tapping my champagne glass with a silver knife. Before we cut the cake, I announced, voice calm and precise, I have a special surprise for the happy couple. The room fell silent. Lila and Mark exchanged puzzled, expectant glances, likely anticipating a sentimental speech about stepping aside for true love. As many of you know, I continued, Lila and Mark's relationship has been developing for some time. I thought it would be enlightening to share that journey with everyone here. The lights dimmed. From the ceiling, a large screen descended, the same one we'd rented for childhood photos and pre-wedding slideshows. Derek was at a corner table, laptop open, ready to run the presentation. Chelsea has captured so many moments beautifully, I said, gesturing to the photographer snapping candid shots. But today, we're going to see footage that shows the truth behind the scenes. The video began. It showed Lila and Mark together. Not from the night I had caught them, but from 3 months prior. Hidden cameras installed by Derek recorded everything in crystal clear HD. They were laughing in Mark's apartment, casually discussing their plans to manipulate me after the wedding. She's always so trusting, Lila said on camera, stretched on the bed. She has no idea we've been orchestrating this since March. The room fell completely silent. You could hear the collective gasp of 200 stunned guests. Remind me about the money again, Mark said on screen, running his hands along Lila's arms. $23,000, Lila replied. She's been saving that for years. Once we're married and move to Portland, we'll have full control. Enough to start the restaurant, and she won't even see a penny. The footage continued. Months of scheming, Mark rehearsing his excuses, Lila trying on my wedding dress in his apartment, Lila calculating how much money they'd save by using vendors I'd already paid, Mark plotting how to pressure me into signing over power of attorney for the restaurant. The most damning clip was from a week ago, Lila on the phone speaking with Venom. Sophie is pathetic, she said. She'll beg Mark to take her back after the wedding, but by then, we'll be gone. She's too weak to fight for anything. 200 guests sat in stunned silence, witnessing every deceitful detail of the months-long betrayal unfold before them. Mark's mother, Eleanor, stood abruptly, her face twisted in disgust, and walked out before anyone could stop her. My parents froze, horror etched into their expressions. Lila's college friends fumbled with their phones, probably uploading every moment to social media. When the video ended, I rose with the microphone, calm and serene. Surprise, I said brightly. I thought everyone deserved to see the real love story we're celebrating today. The room erupted. Guests stood, some storming out, napkins tossed onto tables in anger. Mark's groomsmen clenched their fists, muttering under their breath. Lila buried her face in her hands, panic overtaking her polished composure, as Eleanor's friends whispered about morality and the decay of values. But I wasn't finished. One more gift, I announced. Derek rose from his corner table and gave a subtle nod. Simultaneously, every phone in the room buzzed. Guests opened a link to a private site containing full video footage, alongside screenshots of Mark and Lila's text messages plotting my humiliation and financial betrayal. Just so everyone remembers this day, I said sweetly, holding my phone up. The website contains all footage Derek collected over the past week, including their plans to vanish to Portland with my savings. And Lila, you may want to check your social media. I tagged everyone we know. Lila glanced at her phone and screamed as the video spread across Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook faster than she could react. Derek had uploaded copies to multiple platforms and sent them to every gossip blog and local news outlet in town. I added with a serene smile, #I'm sisterly truth. Feel free to share your thoughts. Mark finally found his voice, face flushed with humiliation and fury. Sophie, you can't. We can get this marriage annulled. Actually, I said calmly, pulling a thick folder of legal documents from my bag. You can't. You're both adults, mentally competent, and exchanged vows in front of 200 witnesses. In this state, consummation isn't required for a legal marriage, and there's no evidence of coercion. Derek helped me research everything. You're posting revenge porn, Lila shrieked, pointing at her still visible naked images on the screen. Not at all, Derek interjected, standing authoritatively. Everything was filmed in areas where there was no expectation of privacy. Mark's apartment lease specifically allows security cameras in common spaces due to recent break-ins. He signed the consent forms 3 months ago. The church ceremony was public and consented to be recorded. Permits, legal opinions, and consent forms are all documented and valid. Mark grabbed Lila's arm, knuckles white with anger. We're leaving, he hissed. Good idea, I said cheerfully. Your honeymoon suite at the Hilton is already fully paid, non-refundable. I thought you'd appreciate the irony of the penthouse package with champagne and rose petals. They fled through the kitchen in a mix of fury and humiliation, the guests watching every second of their retreat. I avoided the angry guests and the photographers who'd arrived after Derek's social media post went viral. I could hear Lila screaming at Mark in the parking lot. This is all your fault, she shrieked. You said she was stupid. You said she'd never fight back. You wanted her money. Mark shot back red-faced. You said it would be easy. Their voices faded as they disappeared into the lot, leaving behind a room of stunned guests, abandoned gifts, and a 3-tier cake that would never be touched. Cleanup took 2 hours. Guests left in small groups, many pausing to apologize to me for not seeing through the deception sooner. Mark's college friends looked particularly ashamed. We should have told you, said Kyle, one of his roommates. He's been acting off for months, canceling plans, lying about where he was. We thought it was just wedding stress. Eleanor, Mark's mother, was the last to leave. She hugged me tightly, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so proud of you for standing up for yourself," she said. "Mark got exactly what he deserved, and Lila, she'll learn soon enough what kind of man she married." "What do you mean?" I asked. "Mark is selfish and weak. The minute life gets hard, he runs. Lila thinks she won a prize, but she's married to a coward who will blame her for everything." The next morning, I woke up in my childhood bedroom for the first time in months without anxiety crushing my chest. My phone buzzed endlessly, but the messages weren't what I expected. Friends and extended family reached out, finally seeing the truth about Lila's manipulations, the way she isolated others, flirted with taken men, and positioned herself as the victim. "I always knew something was off about her," texted my college roommate Jessica. "Remember when she tried to convince me you were talking behind her back? Now I know she just wanted to isolate you." Mark's restaurant investors pulled out after seeing the video. $150,000 in promised funding vanished overnight. Lila's conservative law firm fired her for moral turpitude and violating their code of conduct. The best message came from Mark's brother, David. "Thank God you dodged that bullet. Mark's always been selfish, and Lila, perfect for him. Two narcissists deserve each other." 3 months later, I got a text from Lila. "I want a divorce. Mark's a nightmare, and everyone treats us like parasites. Please help me. I'll pay back the money." I screenshotted it and posted it on social media with the caption, "Some people never learn. P.S. What money? I never gave you any." The response was brutal. The wedding video had gone viral beyond our city. Lila and Mark became infamous online, the ultimate proof that karma exists. A year later, they were still married, not by choice, but because neither could afford a lawyer. Their reputations and careers were destroyed. They moved states 3 times, yet Derek's video followed them everywhere. Social media algorithms ensured that anyone searching their names found the footage. Lila legally changed her name and worked as a gas station cashier in Wyoming. Mark washed dishes at a truck stop diner, his dreams of owning a restaurant completely gone. Meanwhile, I used the year to rebuild my life. I started my own nursing consulting company, traveling and rediscovering myself. The money I'd saved for his restaurant became seed funding for my business, helping hospitals improve patient care. Last month, I got engaged to Derek, my cousin and co-conspirator, in orchestrating the perfect revenge. Our relationship grew naturally from friendship to love as we rebuilt my life together. "You know, I fell in love with you during the planning phase," he told me when he proposed. "Watching you take control like this was the sexiest thing I've ever seen." Lila sent a bitter congratulations card to my parents' house. "Hope your marriage lasts longer than your capacity for forgiveness." I replied simply, "It will." I finally learned to choose people who choose me first. The wedding is next spring. Lila and Mark aren't invited, but I'm sure they'll try to watch online. After all, Derek has promised to live stream it with the hashtag #OurTrueLove. The guest list includes everyone who attended the first wedding. They're eager to celebrate a real love story this time. Eleanor will walk me down the aisle since my father passed last fall. Even Mark's college friends are attending, bringing their wives to meet the woman who exposed the cheaters. Best of all, every vendor from the original wedding offered their services for free. The photographer, florist, caterer, all eager to be part of a true celebration after unknowingly helping Lila and Mark's deception. The cake designer told me, "We're making something sweet enough to erase the memory of last year's disaster." I couldn't agree more.